Hi. Hi, everyone. Good evening and welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. My name is Rudy, and I'll be your host for tonight's inaugural Supper Time Talk brought to you by Music Mountain. For those who don't know, Music Mountain is an online music lessons platform that will be launching somewhere in 2020. We aim to make learning music fun and easy for everyone while learning from the best talents in the industry. Also, we want to make these online lessons available to you anytime and anywhere. So stay tuned for more updates on our development. It's going to be exciting. But tonight, we are presenting the inaugural webinar show, Supper Time. In this series, we invite speakers from the music or media industry to give insights on popular topics. And we have two awesome guests tonight with us discussing on the topic media and music industry. What now? As we know, the COVID-19 era has brought in many unprecedented matters. It has affected many people's lives. As we focus on the media and music industry tonight, I'm sure there are questions on what we can expect in the coming months. Now, every month is going to be challenging, but that has never stopped us humans before. So, without further ado, I would like to introduce our guest today. We have Moots, who is currently the CMO for Stream Empire Holdings. Yeah, you know the company that owns JD Sports and carries all the major shoe brands, New Balance, Nike, etc. Yeah, that's the one. And Moots is also the vocalist of Pop Shuvit and the supergroup Project EAR. And I'm the drummer, of course. We've known each other for a very long time, and Moots has also experience in the broadcast and talent management industry for the past few years under Astro. So his experience in this topic will give some wealth of knowledge indefinitely. We also have Johan Ishak, the MD for Awesome TV. Welcome, bro. Now, this guy, similar to Moots, wears multiple hats. He's a writer, a visual artist, and can also play the guitar and bass. And he's got the brains to match. He's a chartered accountant and was also previously the CEO for TV networks at Media Prima. That's so cool. Anyway, I would like to welcome you both to the show. Just a little housekeeping before we get started, especially to our audiences on Facebook. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the comment section. I'll either bring them up during the presentation or we'll try to get them answered at the end. Okay, so let's get started. Let's begin with the first question I have for Moots. What were the observations you made during the last 3 months in the music industry?
What industry? That's the question.
Yeah, in the music industry.
I know. I mean, as in like what industry? Like I think all industries have been affected in the last 3 months, right? This is a global pandemic that nobody expected. I think for the art scene, the biggest hurdle, of course, is the fact that we have always been used to performing, jamming. We've always been used to performing in front of crowds, and suddenly, in a blink of an eye, all that's gone. So I think that at first was a shock. Everybody was kind of taking a back seat to see where this was going to go, how bad it's going to hit. And I think once the pandemic started hitting, other parts of the world and other continents, I think everything just I kind of hit home. And I think what I really saw, which for me was positive, was a sense of solidarity amongst all the artists. You saw, internationally, Lady Gaga getting together with John Legend, Billie Eilish, and they did the whole Global Citizens show from home to raise funds to fight the virus, and also to support getting a vaccine. And then you started seeing local artists getting together as well, Jacqueline Victor, Sheila Majid. And what was interesting for me was that I think at the end of the day, you can't cage up a creative person. Regardless of where you are, you're going to find a way to put something out, whether it's new music or whether it's live from home videos, or whether it's short skips. You're still going to be putting content out. And I think that's one thing great about creative people. And I think in the next couple of months, and in fact in the next year, we're going to see a huge influx of creative content coming out, from new albums to new music. I mean, I think if you look now at all the streaming services, you can just see all the music slowly starting to come out, because you've had all these artists who've been busy touring or acting in films, and now suddenly they're all at home and they're all thinking about, hey, that clothing line that I wanted to start 5 years ago that I didn't have time to do. I'm doing it now. I've always wanted to bake cookies. I'm baking it now. Laksa, as Johan mentioned earlier when we were offline about, Hazama doing his laksa, and you're starting to see that. So I think the creativity is still going to be there. You're going to see content come up, but at the same time, you're going to see it branch out into other areas. And what I've seen is, I think, from a positive side, I've seen people still putting good content out, which is important.
So the creatives got creative. But okay,
You
you were
can't keep a
mentioning
creative person quiet. They just keep
yeah,
being creative, right?
yeah. But you were mentioning about streaming music here. Let's talk a little bit about sales here. What kind of trend we
Mm.
will see in music sales and sales in streaming music? Is for example, is digital sales falling? And if yes, why is this so? Or if not, why?
I think it depends on the market. Yeah, I mean, John, you want to step in, or if I'll just kick it off. Like, I think if you look in terms of markets, like looking at Malaysia, right? If you look at it
Mhm.
globally, you can make a decent amount of money of releasing your own music independently, right? I mean, you have artists who have done that. Logic is the first case study from Spotify, like 1 billion streams. You get 1 billion streams, you can start earning a decent amount of money, but the real bread and butter for a lot of artists is always going to be in music performances, and it's going to be in terms of endorsements, entertainment services, merchandising. But I do believe that streaming will always be there. I don't think it's going to go away. I think it's going to be a bigger part of our life, so to speak.
Mhm.
But if we're looking at income, I don't think it's going to be as strong as it was before. Because if you look at the music industry, we started off doing physical CD cassettes, then CDs, and then it went down the path of caller ringtones, which was like a weird 5 years for us in the industry, and then now it's gone back to streaming. I think Google's got their head together, so I think
Mhm.
there is potential for talents to make some amount of revenue off that platform, which is YouTube. But that's also very different. If you're looking at straightforward music, like if I were to go to a record store and buy a song, then you're talking about iTunes, you're talking about Spotify and KKBox, Deezer, Jukes. It's different now, right? You
Yeah.
make 0.003 cents per stream. You'll be lucky to make 300 ringgit after releasing an album, but you won't make 300 ringgit if you're performing for a show. So I don't. I'm saying it. I don't know. It's going to be a very difficult road ahead for everyone, and it's just a question of, in January 2021, as the government says that they will most likely lift the restrictions on live performances for big crowds. Will that really happen? Will we have a vaccine in place? We don't know, right?
Yeah.
So it is the unknown. But I think what we're doing now could be the future, right? So
Yeah.
I know a few people are putting it together. I know the guys from Livescape are planning an outdoor cinema, but
Oh, really?
with drive-through. So it's no longer, yeah. So it's no longer like you go to the cinema if you're scared about social distance. I mean, if you want to have social distancing, get in your car. You don't have to get out of your car. You can still watch a movie with your family,
Yeah, I have
right?
a question for
And
you
I
later
think
on.
the bees. Yeah, and I think in the States they're doing these drive-through concerts already, where the DJs perform, they just put it on the big screen, but you just drive your cars and you enjoy the concerts from your car. It's a bit weird, but if you really want to enjoy a festival atmosphere, I guess it's the closest you're
That
going to get,
happened in the
right?
1950s, I
And
think, right?
Yeah, it was around
it's
in
coming back. So the
1950.
drive-through cinemas are
Yeah,
coming back. Yeah,
it's
yeah.
coming.
Your drive-through. We only had A&W lah doing drive-through, right? But
So
Yeah.
just to add on that, so it's a
yeah.
new thing. I mean, people realized how the music revenue mechanism has changed. Now, in 2014, the 2013 was the final year for which the number one source of revenue for music comes from the CD at the time, the printed
Yeah.
the printed format. But 2014 is when it got overtook by digital. So digital became the number one source for revenue for music. But the problem is, it's not when digital becomes the main source. The quantum has changed. Previously, one unit of sales used to be one CD, which is 12 songs, one album, 40 ringgit. And then it changed to one unit means one single, I don't know, 4 ringgit, 5 ringgit. And Then now 1 unit is, God knows what 1 unit is. You pay monthly Spotify, you divide by how many thousands of songs, and as you know, as you mentioned earlier, Moots, whatever cents it is. So what it means is that artists cannot rely on the single or a few sources of revenues anymore. They have to go 360 degrees, and that means the culture of attending concerts, the culture of performances and shows and all that has to come back, because that will give better money than merchandising and Spotify and what have you. Even YouTube doesn't give much money, you know. So with the MCO and all that, it's going to be a bit of a problem trying to figure out how to do concerts and all that. But hopefully 2021 will be the year of concerts. Yeah.
Johan, I have a question lah. I mean, this is based on a recent study I've read. It shows that television, radio, and the press are experiencing historic audience increases, right? But historical downward trends are being reversed. So why is this so? At this period, are people tuning in more?
Right. So there are two reasons. Number one is directly relating to COVID-19. The other one is it's a phenomenon for which we are also surprised to see. Right. I'll start with the COVID-19 first. Obviously, people cannot go out; they stay in their homes, and of course, they can watch a lot of content online, on internet, and all that. But when you are at home, you are with your family. You sit down on the sofa in the living room and all that. The culture of watching TV, the appointment-based instead of on-demand, is there, because when the family is in the room, the father will want to watch news and what have you, and suddenly you find yourself watching TV. So numbers have supported that, because news time, and I'm referring to the TV3 news, Bulletin Utama, the viewership has increased tremendously from about average of 2.5 million viewers per episode and up to 3.5 million during MCO. So that's an increase of like from 2.5 million to 3.5 million average. That's a huge increase, and that it happens across all the other programs as well. I mean, for example, TV3 is the number one station, and the highest viewership will be on drama Melayu, right?
Yeah.
But during MCO, a lot of programs reach high numbers of viewership. So there's no distinction which one is higher, which one is lower. For example, I Can See Your Voice broke the record, 4 million. That's the only program on TV this year so far that has breached 4 million average viewers. So that's on COVID-19.
Yep.
There's also another what do you call underlying changes in behavior, which without COVID-19 it's also already happening. Now it's because of there are two types of people who do not watch television, right? Number one are the cord cutters. Cord cutters are people like us. We grew up watching TV, but we abandoned television. So we cut cord, right? The cord cutters, right? Yeah, the cord cutters. Gen X mainly, and some of the Gen Ys. Then there are cord never. Grew up, never watched television, right? But however, the content is where the attractiveness came from. Content is king. So Malaysians, they like to watch drama Melayu. So there'll be a lot of drama Melayus that is being put online in various OTTs, whether it's iFlix or Tonton or whoever, right? And then the new generation, or the cord cutters and the cord nevers that I defined earlier, they consume this content online, and they have this new behavior, the binge watching, right? So they will hear about certain dramas, and they will binge watch episode 1 to about episode 6, right? And then when they convene with episode 7, they will sit in front of the sofa so that they are what they call the same time as the rest who are watching on TV. And we have done research. We have done research for a few of these dramas. The viewership online will surge up for the binge watching period at about episode 6, week 6. And then after that viewership translate into the viewership on normal TV. And suddenly normal TV goes up from episode 7 onwards.
Oh.
So it's like, I kept on giving the statement when I was in Media Prima television before I left. I gave a few statements to the press. I say, cord nevers and cord cutters return to TV. So we see the phenomenon happen, and nobody would have guessed that this would happen, because people were thought that's it lah. TV is the demise of TV. Everybody's watching online, but you see this happening, which means it's not so much of the platform. Platform is agnostic as far as this industry is concerned. What is important is the content. Content is king. If it's attractive, people will watch it anywhere, and they will even come back and watch TV on the sofa like before.
Yeah, and I think just want to add on as well. If you look at habits, right? Before this, we're out and about everywhere. You're going to work, you're driving back home, you're rushing here, meetings, dinners, etc., etc. So many things happening. But for the last 3 months, everyone was at home, right? And when you're at home, you still have access to your various devices, but then it comes back to just sitting on the couch with the family and switching on the TV. It goes back to that. Like I see a lot of trends now kind of reversing. Like we just spoke about, how drive-through cinemas was something from the 50s, right? And nobody would have even thought of putting that together here in Malaysia. But the same thing with people switching on their TVs and actually making appointments and watching shows as opposed to binge watching. I think after a while, binge watching, you just kind of get sick and tired of it, and you want to catch on to your news, and you just want TV is just on, and you're working from home. And I think that's also something new, right? Because nobody's ever gone through that pattern of actually not waking up, going to work, spending time in the office, and then coming back home. Now you start your day, everyone's kind of converted some room into an office, and everyone's, this is, like they say, is the new norm. And I think that's the habits and the patterns have changed. And I think you're absolutely right, Johan. I think that's kind of like what's coming back. People are actually going back to TV. I started watching TV again. I'll agree. Like, the last 3 months, I started switching on the TV and just watching the news and watching whatever that's on.
Thank you so much on behalf of the industry.
Johan, I still want to ask you something about it. This is quite a tragic issue. We witnessed the shutdown of Blue Ink recently, right? So, are we going to see a further trend of businesses that's going to shut down like this? To more media companies, is this going to happen more?
Right. So I knew this sensitive question would come out, but it's okay. I had my trainings with BFM.
The grills, huh?
Yeah. But okay, so I'm no longer in Media Prima Television Network, so I will not give too much details because it's confidential, right? Yes, but I can say from my overall observation now the industry, whoever it may be, whether employees in the media company or suppliers or whoever, all the component, all the entities who are involved in the industry, they must realize that they must not repeat the same mistakes that happened to the photography industry. Kodak, everybody knows Kodak, right? Yeah. So Kodak went through the Kodak moment, not Kodak moment, smile, click. No, it's Chapter 11, the Bankruptcy Act in the US, right? So what happened was Kodak was the inventor of digital camera. In fact, the photograph of planet Earth from the moon was using Kodak's technology. But they didn't want to explore or didn't want to grow their digital, camera further. They relied on their 95% source of revenue, which is the normal films, right? But everybody knew what happened to the film. It went extinct right about, I think, 2000, can't remember, 2005 or 2006. I think suddenly everybody switched from normal cameras using film to digital camera, and now even digital camera cannot survive because everybody is using smartphones and all that. So that is the Kodak moment. The industry must realize that you must change so that you don't face the Kodak moment. So now back to the story about Blue Ink and all that. Now the method of media has changed. We mentioned earlier just now about people watching online and all that. So we have to shift, right? We have to shift to follow the consumer behavior. So like TV, I cannot be complacent. Even though people have watched TV because of MCO, the viewership has gone up, but I cannot be complacent. I need to be, I need to put in platform agnostic behavior. So for all the TV stations, whether the incumbents or the new TV stations, it cannot just be TV station. In fact, the word TV, don't think about TV anymore. Just the V only, the video, right? Viewership, just the V. So for example, Awesome TV, where I am the MD at the moment. So we are not on air yet. We will be on air hopefully later in the year. I'm ramping up the production. So when we launch, it's not just going to be on free-to-air TV. It's also going to be online. We're going to have our OTT, our streaming service as well. Because you need to be, as I mentioned earlier, your content need to be everywhere, platform agnostic, so that it can travel and people can consume. Now, when that happens, unfortunately, or fortunately, you will be using technology. That's the fortunate bit, because you'll be more savvy and you use technology. It's more efficient and you reach the market better and what have you. But unfortunately, there will be components that will be redundant and obsolete, and therefore you need to get rid of it from your business. Now, one example would be, even the broadcasting technology has improved tremendously over the past 7 years. Now, 7 years ago, one whole room of about maybe 12 feet times 12 feet room, a whole room of equipment is needed to power the broadcasting system for 4 TV stations. But now the whole room has been reduced to a stacker, and that stacker can power 12 stations. So what happened? You reduce space, you reduce electricity, you reduce aircon, you reduce all sorts of things, and the most sensitive thing is you reduce the head count, you reduce the engineers required to manage the equipment. So from 20 engineers required for the whole room, now only 2 engineers. So what happened to the 18? Unfortunately, they have to be repurposed. If they cannot be repurposed and redeployed for other functions in the company, what happens? They will have to let go. So you have seen Utusan Malaysia completely shut down. 1,600 lost their jobs. I'm not sure whether they're going to be up and running again, because Utusan Online is quite strong, right? You have seen the NSTP group, which has got New Straits Times, Berita Harian, Harian Metro, let go about 500 people in Q1 this year. But Harian Metro Online, Metro Online and Berita Harian Online is the number 1 and number 2 portal, news portal. And NSTP, NS News Station at number, I can't remember number what, but that means the content is still relevant, because people are still watching, still consuming it, but it's online. It's no longer the printed copy. Like for example, all this newspaper used to have like 200,000 to 300,000 circulations per day. Now it's down to less than 20,000. So yes, unfortunately, people will lose their job if they cannot be redeployed to other functions. TV, for example, you can see, I'm not sure about Astro. Astro every year has been laying off bits and pieces, but Media Prima television had one of the biggest ones recently, about 300 people or so, right? Yes. And then and the whole Media Prima, then the headcount, even though after the retrenchment, they still have a lot of people. So unfortunately, when they adjust to the new norm, whether it's technology-wise or following consumer behavior or simply just the financial stamina itself, there'll be a lot more of this happening. And I wasn't surprised when Blue Ink made that decision. Not surprised at all.
Yeah, it's pretty sad. But I mean, in terms of this, like you said, like businesses will, some businesses will continue to shut, right? So I want to move to Moots. Moots, because of that, are we going to see, in terms of music releases, right? Are we going to see a stagnant trend? Is there going to be a pause because businesses are going to shut down? We're going to stop releases for a while.
Well, I think as far as the labels are concerned, I mean, that music aspect, you have the talents and then you have the record labels, right? I think already record labels were coming to that point of being somewhat obsolete. I know the majors are not going to be happy with me saying that, but the reality is that you have multiple independent labels coming up, operating like a MCN, so to speak, you know, working with talent that have access on multiple platforms. So you're no longer just about being a great singer. You're about a great singer who can also create content on any platform. And it's no longer just you have to be multifaceted in the music industry right now. Last time you needed to be able to sing and have a pretty face and the label will do everything for you. But now the artists that are getting signed up, they can produce their own music, they can write their own music, they can shoot their own music videos, and they know exactly how to market themselves. And that's because of digital, right? Everything's instant now. I mean, you've got everything from Instagram to YouTube, and even Spotify that gives priority to the artists. Before this, the supply chain was also controlled by the labels, right? Because they produced the CDs, they produced the music, they had the publishing houses, and they rolled your CDs and cassettes to the stores that they ultimately owned as well. But right now, Spotify gives the ownership back to the artist. Jukes, KK Box give the ownership back to the artist. They built, the platforms are there to help the artists. The labels are there now more like a VC, where they're pumping money in to develop the artist. They're there to say, hey, okay, if you want to produce a song, I know you've already got a song, but what I'll do is I'll help you get a great engineer to mix it, or I'll get a, Kanye West to feature on it, or I'll, help produce your music video. So that's essentially what we did with Rocket Fuel as well. I mean, we didn't look at artist development in the traditional sense where you found, found a girl of, well, back in the, we did have Bintang RTM and all back in the day. So, like you did have artists that came out from the contesting and reality TV route. But back in the day is like you A&R by finding this girl singing somewhere in a shopping mall, and you'd be like, she's got it. And then you bring her in and you develop her, right? Everything from grooming to getting the right songwriters to everything, A to Z. And that's the traditional sense of a record label and your traditional sense of a talent manager as well. But nowadays, the ownership is with the talents themselves. If you want to sign a talent, they've already got managers, they've already got people around them and a team that help them create and take care of their IP. And I think in this sense, it's very different from the way it was before. I think labels are there now and are more important, more than ever now after COVID, because they're there with the finances to help support the artists. I think a lot of artists right now have the capability. It is just that they need the support financially to be able to develop themselves, or the industry just needs to come together and help each other out. I mean, it's like I said, the platforms are there for you to be independent if you want to, but the labels are there to take you from step 2 to step 5 straight away. You could do it yourself. I mean, we did it ourselves technically, even though we started with a label. But Rudy, when we started out, we went through the traditional route of gigging and building cred before we got an album. And then you get an album, you're like, whoa, I got signed. Then you realize it's not what it was, right? But then we also understood the business. We learned about contracts. We understood
we bought back all our masters.
Yeah, and we bought ourselves out. But this day and age, the artists already know all of that. A lot of them have the knowledge because the knowledge is at the tip of their fingers. Because when you want to release a song off Spotify, that document that comes to you already tells you how everything is broken down. And a lot of artists are taking control of their publishing. I mean, look at what happened to Taylor Swift. Her dad and her former manager just basically sold off her IP. and for her, it's like all these years of writing music, and the closest people to me can just rip me off. Same thing happened.
Is this Cooper something? I forgot his name. Taylor Swift's.
Justin Bieber's manager. Yeah. So these things happen, and they happen in industry. But at the end of the day, it is the music business. It is business after all. So I think to come back to your question about whether it's going to be stagnant, no. I think that people are stuck at home writing music, right? Artists are on lockdown pretty much everywhere. So what do? They spend time with the family, but after a while, you're going to head into the studio and start fiddling around and come up with something great. And I think that's what you're going to see. And I think what's really going to be different now is the type of music and releases that come out, because I think people's attitude towards life has changed. And I think it's no longer going to be about, because music is supposed to be relevant. You can relate to it. And there's so many things happening in the world today that I think that there's a lot of songs that probably won't resonate well with anybody if it's released. And I think that's what's going to change. I think the messages and the tone of the type of music and songs that come out are going to be very different in the next year or so.
Nice.
Not getting any club party anthems lah. It's going to be a bit difficult, It's
going to be dated. One more question for you, Moots. I mean, you mentioned here, like, okay, artists nowadays will probably be able to craft out their own business plan. But when you talk about, let's talk about live streaming. Is this going to be an avenue where a new revenue stream kind of thing can be set up by labels or the artist himself? Because I know everyone's live streaming now, but is there money in it?
So that's the thing. I think that there are multiple platforms that do provide it, and I think a lot of people are also stepping into the game. I think from a live perspective, there was a platform that even I got into. I think it was called Stage. It was based in New York, and what it did was, because Broadway had shut down, it provided a lot of the tier 2, tier 3 comedians and stand-up comedians to have an opportunity to sell tickets online. And what happens is, they just basically do their show from home. They do a little setup, they charge tickets. I think tickets is like 30 ringgit, 40 ringgit, and during the show you just tip. So there are platforms out there, and I think it's just a matter of time before people start getting used to it. It's something that we want to do. On Stream side, we want to put a show together for the artists as well. It's something that we're planning. We're just trying to see how best we can do it. And I think, to answer your question, Rudy, the answer is yes. You can't, artists are going to want to perform. They're going to want to get on stage. It's just that now that we don't have a crowd in front of us, we can now need to go onto platforms to have that crowd. And I think the question of getting paid, I think, yes, you can probably start charging tickets. And I think even your international acts, right? Who wouldn't want to see some of their international acts performing live? But I don't think it's going to happen at this point in time. I think right now it will come at some point, but maybe not now. And for local music, I think it's going to be difficult. I think you still will need sponsors or some form of support to come in and assist the artists. But we never know. Someone has to do it, I guess.
Yeah. Johan, yesterday, another stimulus plan was announced by the Prime Minister. And we realized that the creative industry had a boost of, I think, 225 million announced, channeled via My Creative, MDEC, and private institutions. How far will this help?
Okay, I think first of all, if anyone wants to send comments back to the government, probably can summarize what I'm going to say now and send to them. So I think the idea of giving grants is not good for the industry in the long run, right? Because it's not going to help build the industry. Grants are probably good for short term, like for example now the COVID, just to get people back on their feet. But I think the amount of money is huge, right? So the best way to do that is to galvanize businesses within the industry. So we have to look at the ecosystem and see how things cascade down from the top all the way to the bottom, right? I mean, for example, if it's TV station must have the financial stamina to commission production house so that they can do, say, for example, drama series. And then the money flows down to the production house because of the commissioning. And then for the production house, then only they have money to pay the artists, to pay the producers, to pay the technical crew team and what have you. And then it cascades down. So it builds the industry, and the industry can grow. So I think the first thing that the government needs to do, whether it's government or the individual authorities here, I'm talking about My Creative Ventures, MDEC, Cendana, and as well as Finas, if they are in the picture, they need to figure out what is the best way to push the money into the ecosystem so that it builds the whole ecosystem to grow, right? It's okay to have some grants, some portion of it. If I'm not mistaken, some portion of it goes into Cendana. That will be in grant format, that will go straight to the talent themselves so that they can be up on their feet. But bulk of it needs to help the business. Now, obviously, previously, My Creative Ventures have been giving business loans, more like a working capital loan, where you can borrow and pay and borrow and pay according to the cycles of your business or your creative production. But I think in the spirit of this COVID-19, that requirement, or sorry, the terms of such working capital loan will probably need to be a bit more lenient so that it can actually have the impact of starting the economy again. If you still behave like the normal banks, there's no point. The whole reason why the industry could not grow previously, it's because the banks are being very rigid, because they view the creative industry to be very, very high risk. And that's the whole purpose why agencies like My Creative Ventures was created, to fill in the gap whereby those creative players could not get loans from the bank. So now the creative players, they got the loan from My Creative, but obviously in the past 7-8 years, only those who passed the due diligence would get it. But now I think in the spirit of COVID-19, they need to figure out another instrument, more liquid, more short-term. It can still be a loan, not grant, but a lot more lenient, so that with the spirit of starting the industry again, at least for the next 12 months.
But Cendana is giving out grants or loan?
Cendana is grant, My Creative Venture loan, and some equity.
Yeah. So Cendana gives out grants to like bands who wants to tour around. If I'm not mistaken, is there such a thing, right?
Well, I think you got to speak to the CEO Izan, but from memory, I hope I remember it correctly. Sorry, Izan, if I got it wrong. If you're watching this, I'm not sure whether she's in here or not. Cendana has got 3 components with the funds that they have. They need to figure out how to help from the supply side and also the demand side. That means from the developing artist side, right? And another one is to create the demand for the creative product. So there are 2 elements. And the third one is actually talking to the government and trying to shape the policies, things like Puspal and all that, to shape, to lobby to the government to shape the policies so that it becomes more conducive. So so they give that kind of grant. I mean, for example, if some of the talent wants to go attend some competition or to be nominated for overseas shows and all that, so they go to Cendana.
I see. Because I know like some countries like Korea, they invest in their artists a lot. I think Rain was one of the.
Korea that's a different ball game together, my friend. That one is like, man, that is crazy, man. That is like Rancangan Malaysia Kelima style, It's like they plan. They say, look, where is Korea, right? Korea needs to be somewhere, because at that time the powers, the Eastern Bloc, I mean the Asian side, Japan was leading, right? And Korean was seen to be inverted commas ciplak, it's copycat to the rest of the technologies of the world. But Japan was not copycatting. Japan was already on their own. So Korea had to change. Say, no, I'm not going to be a copycat, right? I'm going to do on my own and be more successful than Japan. Instead of the Japan pop culture, we need to create this Korean pop culture. So Korea started to go into that mood, okay? And then and obviously at that time China became the copycat lah, right? But even now China is no longer copycat. China is creating on their own. So they plan to say, look, we have to push Korean products, whether it is Korean cars, Korean handphones, Koreans, what have you, to be the world-class brand by 3 decades from now. They actually plan that I want to
kind of plan,
30 years. So they targeted 30 years. The Korean subculture, the Korean pop culture of music and drama needs to be at the world platform. So the government invested and also partnered with private, Samsung, CJ, and a few partnered, and they push. And the first product that came out from there was Rain.
Yeah.
Rain is not like that, if it didn't go through this process. They train him. I do not know whether there are any plastic surgeries or not. They train him how to sing. They groom him. They did everything for him, and he became Rain.
So is he manufactured?
It's for Koka, Kocca. Korean, I can't remember. Creative something, Koka.
Moots, you want to add on? You want to add on?
Yeah, because I got the idea from breakdancing. When Korea, at that point in time, 30 years ago, when they were looking back at what are we actually good at, in what category of arts are we actually number one, and they had the number 1 breakdancers in the world. They had actually, obviously they were big in sports like taekwondo, but breakdancing was when it was obviously an American lifestyle and it went on to England. But back in the 90s, K-pop, or no, Korean breakdancers were actually the best in the world. And it started with that, dancing. And then from dancing to, okay, why can't we write songs just like how, the American producers are writing the biggest hits on Billboard? And that's what they did. They took the best formulas for music and just translated it. If you take a K-pop song and add English lyrics to it, it sounds like an English song that you are probably listening off Billboard. So I think they took the best of the best. You're absolutely right, Johan. And they actually took and embedded and integrated their products within whatever they could do to commercialize it, and they exported it. And look where it is now. It's the biggest thing in the world. K-pop is a force.
It's K-force.
It's K-pop.
It's a K-force.
The M force, Malaysian force. Are we able to do that kind of planning? Is the will there?
Wow.
Are we involving in agencies? Do we have to involve agencies, or does it have to come from the government itself?
I had the past tense. I had the way back in 2012 when there was this thing called DIKN, Dasar Industri Kreatif Negara. And that time I had the hope, because I understood from that time that government will be pumping few hundred millions every year and to push the creative industry to the next level, right? And it covers all, digital, TV, filming, even buskers, literature, the whole works, because initially I was invited into that meeting, when it was still around, right? And then I saw that, wow, okay, so this one, you need to figure out how is the best way to galvanize the different businesses in the industry, and it will cascade down to the talents and all that. But somehow it stopped, it stopped. I don't know when it stopped. Even before the change of government, the movement sort of died away. I don't know what happened to that.
Maybe we got some questions. We got some questions on the comment chat. Let's just run through some of the questions quickly, lah. Selva Kumanan here is asking, how do we motivate young talents amidst this crisis? How can they align their priorities? Anyone want to take that?
Your priority has to be putting food on the table, right?
You hit that nail, right?
It's, if you're studying, study, graduate, get that done. If you are working, work, find a job. That I love the fact that fitness, the PT instructor, like he, for him, he didn't care. He had to work, and he got into the wet market and started lifting vegetables and fish and big muscles, and now he's a celebrity. But what I'm trying to say is essentially, prioritize putting food on the table, survive, and I think be serious about your talent, whatever it is. I'm assuming you could be talking about music or creating content. Do it as well, but don't put all your eggs in one basket. You need to be smart about this, right? I mean, we all at one point in time back in the day said, I'm just gonna pick up my guitar and go and be a rock star. But I mean, Rudy and I were smart about it. We went and got our degrees, started work. We were bankers by day, and after 9 p.m. we went into the studio and worked at music till 4 in the morning. And
actually, all three of us have accounting and finance degrees.
Yeah, there you go. So it prioritize putting food on the table first, and that's my advice. But never give up whatever your passion is, and whatever your talent is. If your talent can help you make money, like if you're a great cook and you can make curry laksa like Hazama and start selling it, then fantastic. But if not, get a job and then then you can start focusing on your talent in your free time.
Joe?
Yeah, so you gotta be enterprising, right? Now, some people will counter back whatever you said, Moots. Not many people are fortunate enough to get into universities. Some families do not have money to put their kids into universities and all that. So how am I going to go end up being like you three folks here become, finance degree holders and what have you, right? So I think the word enterprising is also quite good, because even if you are not fortunate enough to get degrees and work, the other professional professions that can bring more stable income. But even if you are enterprising, in whatever you do, you should put in your honest effort try to be the best in it. Whether it's selling food through the new Grab system, or any of the gig economy things that people do at the moment. If you're enterprising and you think like a businessman, you can make it. So I think that is important. It's actually another way of saying putting food on the table, right?
Yeah.
But in a way where you don't have to be too stressful about completing degrees and what have you. You just have to be enterprising so that you focus in getting that in life.
Yeah, I mean, like I added this now, that was the old way of doing things. Now the
Yeah.
gig economy is essentially providing access and the platform for everyone to, start earning an income. And like you said, to be an entrepreneur, to be enterprising. And the platforms are going all out. I mean, Facebook has been very supportive of local businesses, even up to the point of providing grants and allowing you access to the feed that you would normally have to pay for if you were a business. And I think there are a lot of tools available now. I think a lot of the tech businesses are coming in to support. And I think whatever your passion is, if it's something that you can be enterprising with, go ahead. But other than that, there's a lot of opportunities in the market now than there was before.
True. We have another question from Alice Yip. Drive-in concert is a great platform for artists to perform again. I think Moots, we were talking about it just now. So is it really possible to move this forward? We have available venue but no experience to kickstart this idea.
So I don't know if I'm even supposed to talk about it. I know a few people have already started putting this out. So maybe I won't name names because they might not be happy if I'm already saying that they're gonna do it when I don't know if they are. But I know a few businesses like the drive-through cinema. I know it's happening right now. I think all the SOPs need to be approved by the Ministry of Health. So you need to go through that due diligence and that process to make sure that you get the necessary approvals from the authorities. Venue-wise, I think there are a few opportunities. If you have a venue that you can do a drive-through concert, fantastic. But like I said, you need to, get the right SOPs and the necessary approvals from the ministries, especially the Ministry of Health. So you have the venue, but no experience to kickstart this idea. Well, you can contact, Rahul from the B. He does this, or the guys at Livescape. You can Google. I mean, you can Facebook them. They are event organizers that are looking into doing these type of events. Maybe you can reach out to them. They're obviously looking for a venue as well. I know the drive-through cinema is happening in the Bukit Jalil car park, if I'm not mistaken, in July.
They used to call that Starlight Cinema last time, right?
I mean, Nokia did at Kiara many years ago. Now I think this idea, funnily enough, was something that we wanted to do with Mercedes a few years ago. But I think right now, Iqbal and team are ahead of the curve in terms of coming up with a concept like this. I thought it was great, and I'm pushing them to do EPL. Okay, we want to watch football with a crowd. But the problem is EPL is it'll be up on the 17th of June. It'll be done by the 21st when Liverpool wins. But they've already started doing it in Germany. So Germany has already started doing drive-through viewings for football. And I think even in markets like America, like I mentioned earlier, they've been doing these festival type events, and they also limit the number of cars, because remember, you must still, even though you're in your car, we still need to have social distancing. People need to be in the car. For a movie, it makes sense because you listen to the movie through the audio in your car. But then for concerts, it's still iffy, because in America, what they're doing is they're using those like 4x4 trucks, and they're standing on top of it and enjoying the concert. So I don't know in Asia, if that's possible, but I'm sure there are ways for us to kick something off, and there are people that are interested. So Alice, don't lose hope. If you have a great venue, hit up Rudy from Music Mountain, and he will put you in touch with the right person.
If I may add, there's already a discussion amongst the broadcasters, whether the incumbent broadcasters or the new license holders, talking about concerts. So you know what's on the YouTube, like Hot FM has got its own Hot Jam on YouTube. And then if I'm not taken, I'm not sure whether it's Era or Gaga, they also have their jamming session on YouTube and all that. And thinking about emulating what's happening in India, Pakistan at the moment, they call it the Coke Studio. Coke as in Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
You know, like studio and whatever contemporary music of their time, or in their areas, in their geographical areas, they do it like a jamming concert, no audience, but that will be the new content. So amongst the broadcasters, we're already talking about that. You know, why do we need to have concerts with people around the stadium? We do a jamming concert, and that becomes the content on television as well as online. So that discussion is happening. I'm not sure about the big broadcasters, but the small broadcasters like us, we're certainly exploring ideas on that.
And I think one of our audiences is asking this question. Sorry, it's pretty
Yeah.
long. cut off Johan's face up, but it's
No, I
mentioned
did it.
here, and I think we talked about it. Do you think Malaysia will eventually create online platforms for musicians, artists to perform? Digital platforms that are owned by Malaysian companies, which can be related to media as well. Blah blah blah. We'd love to hear from you if there are any platforms already inviting local artists or upcoming bands to perform digitally. So,
Definitely.
is there any such platforms?
I answered that question.
Yeah, you answered that,
So
right?
many platforms. So many platforms. I think
Yeah.
Johan answered that question. But like Raku was a perfect example, something
Oh,
that
yeah.
we did back in Astro as well, and that I think written did try to uh, put that forward as a label and as a platform. And the thing is, it's difficult, and it's very difficult when the bulk of the music in the world is owned by a few big companies globally. The bottom line is this, right? And I'll be honest, like, who would want to go onto a platform just to listen to Malaysian music? Everybody has their preferences. You want to listen to a little bit of K-pop, a little bit of Malay, a little bit of English, a little bit of local English, maybe some Tamil songs, Hindi songs. Everyone's taste is different. So having a platform that is developed by a Malaysian or Malaysian company, maybe. I mean, people have tried, but to have a platform specifically to promote local music, if you ask me, I think the platform needs to be a live platform. There needs to potentially be a
Hmm.
stage.com or festival.com for Malaysians, where they can go in, pay 1 ringgit for a concert. The concert's actually in a proper venue. And during the concert, you can buy merchandise of an artist. You can potentially donate money to that artist. Maybe I would see that coming more off in the future. But I think if you're looking at to answer her question, if you're looking at releasing your music, if you're looking for a platform to push your music, it's already there. The international pop platforms can do that for you. These are KKBox, Jukes, Apple, Spotify, and of course YouTube. They're there, and they are for artists at the end of the day. Yeah.
Yeah. I have this one. This is from Rizal Kamal. He
You
said, "We're the
are
best
the
in
best,
musical
bro.
media in Asia."
Wow. It's not even a question, just a statement from Rizal.
I don't know whether it's relating
Yes.
to politics or whatever. Well, thank
Probably
you,
both.
Rizal, for your statement. There's another question also
Yeah.
from Amirul Sham.
I've been doing some great stuff.
What are the social media contents that could boost independent artist band other than music? Of course, I'm speaking from a perspective of a post-hardcore band. Okay, so this is a
If it was
hardcore.
pre-COVID, I would have said go out and gig, because if you're in a band and you're in a post-hardcore band, it's just gigging, doing as many shows as you can. Post-COVID, that is difficult. I think there are a lot of bands in that genre that have done well, not just in Malaysia, but regionally as well. I mean, if you look at bands like Massacre, for example, they went on tour around Asia with SLA dying at the beginning of the year. And a lot of these bands do travel and perform all across the region. Opportunities are there. It's hard for me to say uh, what will be hot right now, but I think content is content. I mean, still put your music out, still get your music videos out, do different versions of your music as well. Now it's no longer about releasing uh, the LPs or long plays. It's no longer about 10 or 12 songs in an album. It's about releasing singles for the moment and releasing different versions of that single as well. Like, put a single out, do an acoustic version, uh, get a remix done, and just constantly keep writing and putting music out. It is a bit different nowadays, because back in the day, actually not back in the day, pre-COVID, you could put an album out and go on tour behind that album and make your money off the shows and merch. But I think this day and age, you probably would be better off staggering your releases one single at a time. A release single, maybe a video, maybe a different version of that song, and then stagger it across the next year or so. And hopefully when things lift up, you're able to go out there and tour behind that album or record or singles that you've released.
That's nice. I think hopefully we answered that question for you. I wanted to ask both of you, in this COVID-19 era, we see some ordinary heroes rising up, giving us some hope. For example, the case of S. Pavitra. So do you think we'll see more stories like this? Are we looking towards, this kind of normality or authenticity in this kind of media?
Is that the cooking lady?
In the positive light, I'm a fan. I'm a fan. I've watched the. I love watching the husband eat as well. He really enjoys the food.
This is the one. Right?
He puts the food for everyone, even puts food for the wife and the kids, and they just enjoy the food. Even that itself is entertaining content.
They eat for 5
real,
minutes, bro.
and I enjoy it so much. Sorry?
They film them eating for at least 5 to 6 to 7 minutes. It's just eating, enjoying the food.
Yeah. I mean, it's like the phenomenon of Gogglebox, right? Just watching a bunch of people watch other shows. I mean, that's entertainment as well. So I think from her point of view, it was entertaining, it was real, and it touched your heartstrings as well. Plus, it was informative because her dishes were good. And these were like proper traditional Indian dishes that even I myself will probably get the recipe from my mom, or it goes down from your grandparents to your parents to yourself, and I thought it was great content. I think she's doing it. It's fantastic for her that she's got she's at that level that she is now with the number of subscribers and views. But Rudy, to answer your question, yes, positive and negative, because in the last couple of weeks we've also seen a lot of content that's gone out that's being trolled and a lot of cyberbullying going on, which I hope that starts to stop as well, because but then at the same time, I do believe that you will see more of this content coming out. Like I said, the dude who was the PT that was going out there, working and he made a name for himself just by doing good hard work. And you see a lot of this content come out that will touch our heartstrings at the end of the day.
Yeah, so Joe, I wanted to ask you this related also lah. What kind of content is actually getting, other than this, like as Pavitra, what other content is getting positive feedback like this?
I think this is like a preamble to what a gig economy would be. You were saying that content needs to be really professionally done, for the purpose of broadcasting and all that. But people are already accepting that they are willing to discount certain elements of the content, like clarity, the color grading and what have you, because they know this is user generated content, UGC, and when they enjoy it, they don't care about that because they know this is UGC. So this is something that the broadcasters have to think about, because do you really need to figure out, you really need to go all the way to produce a full-blown broadcasting standard content, or are you able to take some of this content which has got very strong followings on the internet and make it into the mainstream content on TV? Now, cooking definitely is, singing definitely is, going down and helping people, helping the poor, and uncovering certain issues that the rakyat is facing. That's another type of content. So in other words, the human side of things, the kerakyatan, the human side of things, it touches people's heart. So this will be the content, this will be the trend going forward in line with the gig economy. Cooking touches people's heart. So this is what I think the broadcasters need to realize. It cannot just be whatever format they've been living for the past 30-40 years. It will be based on what the consumer wants. And what the consumer wants and what the consumer like is not necessarily what you think is right? So I think this is a realization that people need to reach.
Yeah. Another question from Amirul here. Is there any existing platform that can enable high quality streaming of live performance? Now, I think Moots, I think we we tried to dabble in this, especially live performance as a band. I think one of the issues of
Actually,
getting
the problem is not the platform.
together
The problem
was
is the bandwidth, bro.
latency.
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 Yeah,
Yes.
I tried to jam. I couldn't. It's haywire, man.
So
Yeah.
What we
It's,
do
it,
is,
it,
to just tell you our secret, lah. We record what we do in our rooms and everything, and then we combine it as we mix it up together and sync it together. But that's about it. That's about how we do our songs. If there is a live performance, high quality streaming platform, I don't know of any that can actually handle the bandwidth and latency right now.
Yeah.
It's quite tough.
unless, of course, now with social distancing, you are allowed to actually go to a studio and record. Then you can probably get in touch with JD through Music Mountain, and you could set
Yeah.
something up there and live stream from studio itself. That can be done. There are many opportunities, as long as okay. So the difficulty was getting everybody in their own individual homes to record because of the latency, right?
Yes.
But then if you're able to now at least have the 5 members with social distancing in a venue together, it can be in different rooms, you can still be able to record. And I think studios are open, so from the 10th you can go to a studio and actually record that and then live stream it.
Yeah, I think there's this band called Powderfinger. They did a live session and in the studio. They're all together in different rooms, but they recorded it live just a few weeks ago, if I'm not mistaken. That is possible. And I think you just need to have OBS.
Post Malone,
Look at OBS. Yeah, Moots, you were saying
OBS did
something.
it at the B.
Mhm.
Up there, you can get that up there. I think they I think studios are allowed to open. If I'm not mistaken, I think from the 10th, studios are allowed to operate again. So you can, as long as they have the right SOP and they follow social distancing, you just need to be able to have the drum set up in a different room. Vocals can be set up in a different room. It's possible to get it done.
Yeah, good. Amirul, we hope we answered your question.
Yeah, but the technology will improve. I think that you will get there, because if you look at how Smule works, I don't know whether
Yeah.
you guys try Smule.
Yep.
So you have that function for duet, right? For duet.
Yeah.
How is it possible that the duet is able to synchronize nicely in terms of the two singers at a separate location? It's because there's one single reference point, which is the song that has been played in Smule. So the song is being played as a reference point. So when you sing, all they need to do is just to synchronize between the songs appearing in one phone to another phone into a single time, a singular timing, and you have it synchronized. So I think the technology is there. We just have to wait for somebody to expand it further into a band jam thingy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, look, we've discussed quite a lot in the hour. So I just have one last question for both of you before we move on. A civilization is defined by its art, by its culture and its art. Do you agree? Okay, number one. And how and what should we do to further get the media and music industry back on its feet?
You want me to go first?
Yes,
Yeah,
go
go
ahead.
Okay. So I'm gonna be a bit religious now, right? So human civilization in the past has grown with the help of art. It is very, you cannot find any civilization in the past that did not have art as part of their main component in their progress, right? The Egyptian, the Chinese, the Aztec, what have you, they've got art everywhere, whether it is in the form of visual arts, music, literature, and what have you. I mentioned earlier that I will be a bit more religious, right? So in fact, Islam grew from Quran, and Quran is a form of art, because at that time when Prophet Muhammad recited Quran, it is at that time for the Arabs, it is like poetic narrative. It's very literature. In fact, that is the one reason why it was accepted in the Arabic culture back then in terms of the poetic nature of it. So for us in the modern era, who are we to ignore art in the progression of our civilization? We have no right to exclude art from the progression of civilization, because all the civilization before us, they progressed and shown with art as an important component in their DNA, really. So that's one side of it. It sounds very philosophical, but the other one is how would music, how would you progress the music industry going forward? And I think one of the questions that Rudy asked earlier, where Moots and I answered, you cannot just rely on a single revenue stream. You must have multiple revenue stream. You got to be 360 degrees. You got to do everything from the normal producing of the songs on YouTube, on Spotify, and what have you, into merchandising, into endorsements, into using the music into other forms of content, and then you got to do your shows as well. So it has to come back to that. You have to go back to the 80s, to the 90s, the 70s and 50s, and synergize everything back and call it that this is the new way.
Nice. Thanks, Joe. Moots?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree totally. I think we've always been having this battle to take Malaysian art culture, and globally it's been happening in pockets over the last couple of decades as well. And we've seen a lot of successes. Yuna, of course, homegrown girl that's doing so well in America and actually all over the world. I think I do agree with what Johan said as well. And just to reiterate the point, and this has been even before COVID, everything is multifaceted now. It is 360. It's not just single track anymore for any artist. You need to look at it holistically in terms of whatever you do. And I think for the media and the music industry, what's most important is we need the support of the people. We need people to still be, a lot of artists are doing it. I mean, throughout the MCO, we've seen everyone get on IG Live. Everyone's doing their own little webinars, their own little streaming talk shows, and I think we just need to log on. That's the most important thing. Log on, and stream the content. Support your artist by actually being present. That's all we need. Back in the day, we'd be like, go to a show lah, spend your 10 ringgit and buy a ticket, go to the show. Now it's, just log on, get on Facebook, get on IG, get on YouTube, get on Spotify, and just listen to, whatever that's going on with the local industry, whether it's Hazama cooking his curry laksa, or one of us, doing dinner.
You gotta check Hazama, man.
Yeah, we're giving him a free plug. I must call Jen and ask for that. For send me some curry laksa. I'll go and buy some curry laksa and try it out. And of course, most importantly, I think we just need to log on, be active, be positive, and show some support. And I think in this day and age as well, I think positivity is key for all of us. And the only way we're going to be able to bounce back is if we have the support of each and every one of our people and everyone in the industry to support each other as well.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yes.
Please say no to piracy.
Yes. Will be very important.
I don't know how you're going to
say no to piracy, everybody.
Yes, no to piracy.
Say no to piracy. But
okay, thanks.
Adding on to that, putting out a cover of one of your favorite local artist songs actually does help them out. If you think you're a budding singing songwriter, put out a cover of one of your favorite local artist songs. That can always help the artist and help you as well. I think that's important. Get the music out there, get the content out there.
Yes, we need the support. Now, thank you guys. I mean, thank you so much for spending an hour with us. I know it's late, but it is supper time anyway. So before we close up the session, I would like to thank again Johan and Moots for being part of the discussion. I really hope there was some added value that the audience were able to absorb from the questions. I hope we helped answer some of the questions in a way that actually added value for them. Moots and Johan, we might do a follow-up meet, just to see. You never know. Post-COVID, things might change, and we might have a remarks for all that. I would like to also urge the audiences out there to subscribe to our channel on Facebook, as we will have regular webinars like this. Now, this session will be put up on our channels for people to view. So please do share with your colleagues. Now, as we develop the Music Mountain platform, we will update all of you on our latest developments. Till then, I'm Rudy and we're signing off. Good night, Johan. Good night, Moots. Thanks a lot. Good night, everybody, and have a great week ahead. All right? Good night. Bye bye.
Night.